Well, hello to the whole wide world. Listen, it's great to have some friends on with me today. I'm excited about sharing some conversation. And we're hearing from a lot of voices in this season. And I think we're all tuned up to what's coming out of the culture and out of the medical field and the science field. And I just think now more than ever, we need to hear the voice of God through the voice of the men of God. And I'm thankful. I've got two guys on that I've been in covenant relationship with for a long time. They probably know more about me than I care to admit. And I got to, we've kind of, I'm older. I'm the old elder statesman on here today, but these guys have been friends and strengths and voices of reason. They both talked me off the ledge more times than I can remember having conversations with Israel back back in the battle days. We stayed in touch pretty much on a weekly basis. He was calling to patch me up, and of course, Adam is. I've known him since he was a really young guy, and watched him grow up in ministry and have such respect for his father. And now he's one of our all stars, and we talk about the finest the kingdom has to offer, and these are two of my favorites. So, guys, thank you for taking a minute. And I know all of us are kind of teeter tottering, moment to moment, decision to decision. Talk about that for a second, both of you guys. Because I think the people think sometimes, that we're not feeling and sensing and being pulled like a tug of war rope on what to do. I mean, what I want to do is say the heck with it all. We're having church. Come if you want it, stay home if you don't. But there's so many factors that you are trying to deal with. Just spend a second. Both of you kind of relate to that. I know we've had conversations about what it feels like in the emotional, from one end of the spectrum to the other. But I want you guys to talk about that just a little bit.
That's
Go ahead.
awesome. Well, number one, before I even get into that, it's always good to see your face. And I'm almost positive, and Adam, you could probably confirm too, is Pastor Ronnie's probably talked me off the ledge way more than I have ever talked you off the ledge. But yeah, good times that we're living in, huh? People that are full of faith, like we always are. I think it does make people, I'm always so optimistic anyhow, eternally optimistic, always full of faith, always saying, come on, the glass is more full than it is empty. But then
Right.
there's the reality of the emotions that we're feeling and the rhythm, the speaking. We can preach to a camera, and that's not a problem, but I miss the energy of the people and the pull from the people and the at least for me, I need a few laughs to get me to really start preaching well. And so all of those things, those emotions that you're feeling, is, even though we're men of faith and you're a general of faith, there are some definite feelings that we're feeling of, man, am I helping people right now, or am I just bin Laden in a cave? And am I even helping?
Isn't it strange, the void that is created there with the lack of feedback? I never dreamed. I do 3 services on Sunday morning during the regular schedule. And right now, obviously, we're only doing one and broadcasting it multiple times. I leave my building more wore out, empty, like, Jesus, help me. It's like I feel more drained emotionally, physically, mentally than I do when I'm preaching multiple services on Sunday. It's the weirdest thing because you just don't have any of that wind filling your sails in response. And I think that's a growth opportunity. I'm not saying it's not. Certainly, I have taken it on as an opportunity to grow. And, that old saying that, when we were coming up, put yourself in a bubble and preach at the doorstep of hell if you have to. And that, trust me, I felt that. Adam, talk a little bit about the emotions and the tightrope that you've sort of felt like you've had to walk of decisions and how you interface with people. I love that from Israel because I feel the same thing, and I'm glad to hear you say that. You just wonder, is anybody listening, and does anybody care what we're doing over here? Because you just don't have that connection and that weekly affirmation. And I know we should be able to do it without it, just like we teach our faith, our people to walk in faith. I can tell you it's been a struggle for me.
Listen, I pulled up 3 weeks ago to my dad's church because his setup is just, his campus, they got the HD cameras and the broadcasting and all that stuff set up. So whatever happened, my guy that was going to do the live broadcast for us, he was running late because it was snowing out here in Colorado in the middle
Just
of
wrong.
April. And I remember pulling up by myself in my truck, pulled into the parking lot, called him to let me in because I forgot my keys. And he's like, hey, man, I'm running 40 minutes late. And I remember sitting there in my truck watching snow in April with no one around, all by I was so depressed. And then I was going to do a message on joy. Let's talk about joy and uplifting, and let's come on, Joel Osteen it a little bit. And finally get in there, walk into my dad's auditorium. You know, both of you guys know you preach there all the time. Seats a couple thousand, and it's completely empty. I've got one camera person who, she's a sweetheart. She's so faithful. And I've got our broadcast team. And I remember them going, are you ready, Pastor Adam? And I looked at him for a minute.
From the parking lot to the pulpit.
Yeah. Are you ready, Pastor Adam? I'm like, no, I'm actually not. I stepped off the platform. I had to go pray for a second because I'm like, I'm not ready for what? Ready for what? And I remember I did the whole message. You're preaching with nobody responding. We don't even do the music. We do a music on the separate night. So it's just me and like a couple people. And I remember, man, I finished praying and I did an altar call. I think someone responded. I don't know. It's just a camera, and said amen. And it was crickets. Stephanie's like, great job, Pastor Adam. Thank you for that. And I walked off so depressed. I was just like, this is hard. So what you said, I was so physically taxed at the end of that 30-minute message. It's hard to explain it.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear you guys say that. I've struggled just personally. And you both know me. I think we know each other's strengths and weaknesses fairly well. And obviously what I love to do is to hold a microphone and a Bible and preach. And I tell you what, it has been one of the great struggles that I can ever remember. And it's internal and it's a growth opportunity, but I think it's neat for the people to hear that, man, this is way harder than church for me. Way harder than, putting it together and just coming in and shaking the house. And it's been a growth opportunity. And one of the things we've talked about, and this is, I want to get into this with both of you guys. We've talked a lot about the fight for focus, because there's so much information. And I found my people know a whole lot more about the COVID deal than they do about the 4 Gospels. I mean, I'm telling you, I've never seen a more informed, well-read, and well-listened people.
Wow.
It's like, so there's a lot of voices, and we've talked a lot, both internally with our team and then with our congregation, about the fight for focus. I think faith is a matter of focus. And I think right now, as pastors and church leaders, one of our strongest battles is to get our people focused in the right way, on the right things, with the right actions, so that this isn't a wasted season, but it's a cave-like season that really, like a butterfly, releases us into something greater. And so I just want you to talk about that. Israel, we'll start with you, but just the way you're sensing this fight for focus, the fight to clue people in on the right things. I want you to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I know that just in the beginning, like you, Pastor Ronnie, I think just in my own, it starts with your own personal before you can even family, church, anything. But just the gym closing for me was like, well, wait a minute. That's when I go and I do my podcast. That's when I do, all of those things. And so then, after a week, like you said, I didn't know what day it was. Like, isn't it Wednesday? No, it's Monday. Like, how did that happen? And so it is a choice that we have. And it's so easy. We can binge watch Game of Thrones and watch 18 seasons of that, or like you said, actually come out different and changed. And I love the story of just that I've been thinking about. I've been doing two things that I've been looking at. I've been looking at the children of Israel when they were in Egypt and then getting into the promised land. And I know we as preachers, we preached it a billion times, but that new normal, that new like wilderness, that we're not out of it yet. We're still kind of talking about where we've been and what we've been comfortable with, but then now getting comfortable with what's about to happen. So I've been thinking about that and talking about that with our team. And then also just especially when Jesus, before he ascended, he finds the disciples in the boat, toiling, trying to get it, and doing everything that they've always done. And he says, hey, why don't you just pivot? Why don't you just shift? Why don't you just, and using your words, Ronnie, why don't you focus on this? Same boat, same lake, same people, but it was just a small shift that actually resulted in a huge catch. And I've been like, Holy Spirit, what's the small shift? What's the small thing that it's our same church, it's our same leaders, it's our same city, but what do we have to shift so that we'll actually come up with what's the new harvest? And I think if we're looking for massive things, I think that we'll get disappointed and we'll get frustrated because there are going to, at least in my opinion, and faith-filled, after 9/11, there were some things that shifted. Remember when you used to go to the airport to meet someone at the gate? You would meet them at the gate. And then now, after 9/11, I mean, there were you were going to get it patted down. You remember taking off your shoes, your belt? I mean, you come in naked before they would let you on that plane. And so there was some shifts, but we still ride the same airport. It's still the same airline. We're still sitting in the same chairs. So my thing is, Holy Spirit, help us. What is the pivot? What is the shift? Because it's going to be, come on, we're not getting rid of the Bible. We're not getting rid of the power of praise. We're not getting rid of praying for people for miracles, but there will be some shifts because if we keep on saying, no, wait, well, we just got to go back to how it used to be, we're going to be in trouble.
I agree 100%. I don't think, God's graduating us to something, and we got to look at this, even though it doesn't feel like it. I think the way we teach faith and have always lived faith between the three of us is no matter if it feels like it's going to break us, it's graduating us to something. It's this has to be graduating us to something. And I love that idea. And I'm going to lean in on that too, Israel, the small pivots that make big differences. I think you're onto something there because, and I believe that with you. I believe there are a whole lot of little things that we're going to have to pay attention to. And, one of the things that I think that a lot of pastors and a lot of the young guys I work with, they weren't ready for online ministry. They weren't ready for iChurch platform type stuff. A lot of them weren't ready for online giving and some of the other things and so there is some stretching that I feel like is going to be positive in the long run for a lot of us. And we're no different, though we were, fairly well set up and ready. Certainly with Matt at the helm there, we were ahead maybe of other churches our size, but I have seen in the life of these smaller churches, and I've read some awful reports, is up to 20% of churches nationally won't reopen when we reopen. that's a huge hit.
Mhm.
And I think, you know, for the three of us who have always been kingdom guys, it's not like my church is going to make it, but what about the church? What is the big dramatic impact on the national church? Because we have to care. We have to care, and it matters. Adam, talk a little bit about that with your people, your staff, your leadership, that fight for the right focus, the right drilling down to the, you know, some singular, smaller areas of focus. What's that been like for you?
Yeah, I think as a church, it has been the digital online factor. And luckily, like what you said, we were set up for that, which gave us an advantage. So I can give like a couple cool, just kind of testimonies from it. I had 4 families in my neighborhood that we were trying to get them to church. But it's a bigger ordeal when you got to get the kids in the car and get dressed and drive down the street. I'm a church guy, but for them, it just, they never could make it to church. They were going to come. Since we've gone online full time, they've joined us every single Sunday online. And now I'm getting to witness to them and pray for them and all sorts of cool stuff. So that was one of my first things, is we're evangelizing our neighborhood at a higher level because of this. The second thing for me, personally, my focus has gone to my kids, and we sit down every Sunday and we're watching praise and worship online, which is totally a different experience. It's still powerful, but it's not the same when you have hundreds of people together. And we just talked about the book of Psalms this Sunday and what that means and what their praise life looks like. And, you know, I got an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, and we just had some powerful, I anointed my family with oil this Sunday, just going, God, I declare your blessings, your authority. And so I think like what Israel was saying, the little shifts of focus can do miracles in people's houses. And anybody that's listening to this right now in your home and in your house, make your home a sanctuary, make your home a place of worship with your family and your spouse and your kids. And man, I've had quarantine moments. I'm going to be honest. I've had moments. I'm like Israel. He likes to work out. I was thankful when they shut the gyms down. I was like, yeah.
I didn't have to cancel that, did I?
I'm like, keep them shut down in Jesus' name. Open the church. Keep the gym shut up. My wife will get off my case. So, but yeah, I think it's important. Your spiritual disciplines in this season are so important. Your prayer life, how you get in your word, and leading your family in a place of faith. And so for us, that's where I've seen some blessings in this season.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that. The restoration of the home altar, I think, was an real early focus, you know, for us. And Israel, it's funny that you mentioned the story that I've been preaching on Sunday mornings is right after Jesus feeds the 5,000 with the 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He tells his disciples, he says, get in the boat and go to the other side. And so God really dealt with me about this whole issue of focus. What are we focused on? Because all you hear, none of it's really a faith focus, right? It's what's happening in the culture and schools being shut out and seniors not being able to graduate and sports not being, I mean, there's so many things going on that all of that was the focus instead of, okay, God has given us a cave moment. What are we doing with it? And what are we focused on? And I use that, that story of Jesus speaking to the disciples. Of course, in the middle, the storm comes, and then he walks on the water and gets in the boat, and they go to the other side. But those words, the other side, are, I mean, they captured my heart, because it is his word that should create our vision. Yeah. And I guess what I was getting at with my congregation is it the wind or is it the word that is establishing your level of vision? And one of the things that we've talked about is whatever creates your vision controls your focus. And if our vision is created by fear or by what's coming out of the world, then naturally we're not going to be able to walk out our faith. And of course, you see the disciples right there. I mean, they've just come off of an unbelievable, unexplainable miracle. Their faith should have been at an all-time high. And here they encounter a little storm. And what happens is the vision of the winds and waves were bigger than the vision created by his word. And I think right now we've got to really dive in with our people and with our faith communities. Where's your vision coming from? Because whatever created your vision is what will control your focus, and you always move into the direction of your greatest focus. And so I think it's so vital right now that we're commanding the best that we can through the apparatus that we have, commanding the focus of the church. And that focus has to be really created by the word that he's given us. The other side, that's created my vision, and I'm going to row the boat until I get there, understanding that I won't fall short of accomplishing the word that he's placed over my life. And I see this, man, even at home. It's funny the way my sermons have played out in my own house with 4 teenagers and telling them they can't go and be and do, and really working, like Adam has said, it has been a wonderful time for family, even though family, has been a focus. I know for all 3 of us, long before quarantine, family has always been the biggest and most comprehensive focus that we have, including our churches and ministries and etc. But I just feel like right now, it's like there's such noise and clamoring. And if we can create a vision inspired by the word of God, and that word is, you're going to the other side. There is another side of this, and we will get there. And on the other side, of course, when he lands on the land, there's all manner of there's an explosion of miracles and faith. And I believe when we get to the other side of this, that there will be that kind of thing as well.
Come on.
An explosion of faith in our churches. I think there'll be a hunger for manifestation. I think the church has got away from a culture of manifestation and true experience in faith. We've turned Jesus into a lesson that we teach on Sunday, but there's no expectation of manifestation. And I think there's going to be a great hunger. And I know where the 3 of us came from. I know our hearts to lay hands on the sick and to see the gifts of the Spirit in operation and all that. I believe coming back from this, the need and the hunger for that manifested experiential power of God. I think there's going to be an incredible hunger for that. And I believe that on the other side, there's, the other side of that story, devils cast out, they the sick, they laid him at his feet. There was an explosion of faith and miracles. I'm believing for that as we move through this, even though, it's funny when you talk to people, and I don't know if you're starting to have this dialogue as it looks like we might be able to open, but there's a lot of people that they're not excited about, they're very apprehensive about coming back to church. Are you hearing any of that?
Yeah, I think so. And I love what you said about having your focus. I remember hearing about the famous NASCAR drivers. One of the first things that they teach them is, if there is an accident, don't you dare look at it, because your hands will pull to the direction that you're looking at. And as faith leaders, as family leaders, as business leaders, you better not be looking at all the fear things, but like you're saying, God's word, look to the other side. We will get through this. And that's how, you get through. And yeah, there will be some apprehension, I believe, for some people that are bound by fear. How many times did Jesus have to talk to the disciples about fear? And but at the same time, I agree with what you're saying. I can't wait to hug somebody. Like I'm hugging my family, but I'm not a hugger. Ronnie, you're a hugger. You're like a kiss on the cheeker, and you're a toucher. And I'm like, I'm that's just not me. I'm like, oh, okay, but I will be 10 times a hugger than you are, because I am missing my people, and I am missing that that fellowship. And so I think even more, our worship experiences, I think, are going to be more intense, because there has been, Adam, what you were saying, it's good online, but there is nothing like, I don't want to forsake the gathering. There's nothing like the atmosphere of the day of Pentecost when the Holy Spirit filled the room. And we're
Yes.
praying for that to happen in homes. And we believe it can happen in homes. It happens in the homes of the underground church in China. But there's also something that happens when we gather. And so I believe the expectation is only going to grow. And we can hear you. And I can do the thumbs up, Ronnie, when you're preaching. I can do the clap emoji, Adam, but there's a time where you just have to stand and throw your shoe. There's a time when you've got to stand and say, preach it, white boy. And so, all of those things, I think the power of laying on of hands is gonna be incredible. I think come on, line them up for the shadow, because there's such an excitement for something. So I do believe there's some people that will be, backed up. But the great thing is, I think we'll be both and for now on. So we'll still have the internet expression for those that are stuck in home, whatever that reason is. But then we'll also have the live. And so I think it's going to be a better post than it was our past.
Yeah. I agree too. Adam, do you feel like, is there any trepidation, that it will be difficult to get people to get back in the house once we sort of see the restrictions lift? Is there a fear? And maybe Israel, you both answered this, in the national church, because I want to tell you, I don't know what it is, but my heart has been broken. Not for my church. My church I can't even tell you how well they've responded in every category. They've connected well. They have communicated well. They're giving, they're all of those things. But I want to tell you, I have some trepidation. I don't want to call it fear or even worry, but there's something there in my heart that has a little bit of trepidation about how the nation responds when the restrictions. Have we gotten so used to having it on our couch that we don't, want to have? Because I agree with you, Israel, there is an atmosphere that is created in the congregation, the fellowship, the togetherness, the gathering of the saints that you just don't get anywhere else or any way else. And Adam, speak to that. Are you feeling like, we're going to have to take some measures to break down some of those walls of people getting used to doing it at home?
I want to say no, but my gut says yes, that there's going to be some things that we've got to do to help people get back in the house. And I don't want to be cliche, everything with the government, everything's going to open slowly. It's a slow moving thing. The church could feel some of that for sure. For sure. I want to believe that revival is going to break out and they're going to be running down the middle of the aisle and can't wait to get into the house of God. So that's where my faith is. But I always go faith, and then I'm always prepared. Okay, what do I need to be doing as a pastor to get my church ready? What do I need to be doing to get people excited about getting back in? What do I need to do for those that do struggle with the fear of everything that's happening to make them comfortable? So I actually went back and watched, because I know they opened some churches in Dallas this past weekend. And one of them was Ed Young Jr. So I went back. I just wanted to see what his church looked like. And man, he had to have mass for all the people that came. He provided them. They were all sitting 6 feet apart. He has a 4,000 seat auditorium, and it just felt so different. And I commend him. He pushed forward and made it happen and did the regulations. But it's what we were talking about. It's the new normal. Things will go back at some point, but right now it's looking a little different.
Yeah. And I feel that same thing. There is the side of me, the revivalist side, the side that never wanted to close my church in the first place. I fought hard inside obviously you've got to do what you have to do, but I fought on the inside of, man, this is the Nazarite side of me coming out, the John the Baptist. I'm ready to put on camel hair and say, repent and but I understand the dynamics, and that we have to be responsible and live the tension between faith and wisdom. That's a real thing that we all have to be contributors. But I wonder, Israel, I'm going to give this to you. I wonder, is there a space here where as spiritual leaders, we got to stand up and say, okay, we've done it your way and we've obliged and we've done everything that we've been asked to do. You know what? Now it's God's turn. It's that showdown on the mountain kind of thing where Elijah said, you know what? We tried it your way. Now let the God that answers by fire be God. Do you feel like there's a space coming where you just got to say, you know what? I gotta follow God, and we got to get this thing back together. My people need it so desperately that we're going to walk in faith. Do you feel like, if this thing persists, that there's a space there where some of the men of God are going to have to make hard decisions?
I think there will be. I'm in California, so I'm already preparing for that, just because I am not in what would be considered the Bible Belt, or I live in a nation right now, California nation, that would be just secular. And so, and some people would say God opposed, some would just be God ignorant, not having that. And so that we will have to do those things, I believe. But that I have a tendency on just the human nature part is, at least for us in California also, is people are ready. With a beach a mile away from us, we're like, and it's closed. Like, I may not have to say anything, only because of everyone's, in a sense, just their own personal, come on, I'm done. It's over. Let's go for it. And so I know what you're talking about, the wisdom of, we want to make sure that these city officials that we have told we are there to help serve, and we are there to help them, we want to make sure that we keep that relationship. But then we also just have to build faith. So I think that there's a transition time from the moment of what you're saying, which is Elijah on the mountain and calling down fire. I get that. I think what I'm doing is, you remember Elijah was like hidden from Obadiah, and Obadiah was like, don't tell Ahab you're here or he's going to kill me. I'm trying to have my Obadiah moments now. City officials, come on. Hey, we love you. What can we do for you? We're, all of those things. And I'm not calling it brown nosing, but I'm letting them know that one place that they can get faith and they can get hope is from, Israel and Rachel, and from our church. And so when we do go forward, I don't think that the city is going to fight me. I think the city is going to actually have the key and kind of say, come on, we need you now. So it's a both and, if that makes sense. So I'm not just the Elijah moment, I'm also the Obadiah moment. Come on, let's get this now. We're serving you, and you'll say, hey, we need you to help open up this, because we are flustered and flabbergasted right now.
Yeah, and I think it's important for all of our folks to understand there is a multiple at times where we don't agree with what we're being asked to do. I think it's important, if not for your people, I'd like my people to hear me say, there's a ton of things we've done to try to be partners to our elected officials. And I'm going to tell you that I don't agree with at all. But in my opinion, I think I have to be careful to not allow my opinion to be, what drives the decisions that we make. We're trying to make decisions on the tightrope between faith and wisdom. Man, that's sometimes a difficult thing to do. Adam, talk about that. Do you sense or feel like that there are some hard decisions for church leaders, pastors, etc., that we're going to have to make in the future that may put us at opposition to some of the things that we've been asked to do?
Yeah, I think there's a major tension. I was talking to my wife a couple days ago. We just had a heart to heart because I was just exhausted. I'm like, my whole routine is different, and it's a mental exhaustion of trying to figure out what doing the tightrope. It's stressful. Where we're going to step out in faith and where we're going to have wisdom. So, um, for us, I'm in the middle of, because we have two campuses out here and we're in Colorado. So I'm in a similar situation to Israel. So the good news for me, Pastor Ronnie, is you get to go first, and then we're going to follow what you do because they're going to open you up way before our liberal Colorado, California. They've left all the weed shops open. That's essential business out here.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. They didn't close those down for a minute. Too many tax dollars to be earned on that, apparently. So, but yeah, there's going to be a tension of how we do it. So we have two campuses. So our I call it our baby campus, which is in Aurora. It only seats 200. And so depending on how they want the spacing and distancing, we might actually just get rid of that property and merge back to Lone Tree. So that's a huge decision. That's a huge decision to shut the doors down of that building. We're not shutting the doors down of the church, but the building. And so, yeah, there's going to be those moments. That's why I'm glad I got you in Israel, who are way smarter than I am. And I just come to you and you guys tell me what to do. And that's what I'm going to do. And so that's the good news for being the younger brother on the block. So,
Israel, you want to pipe in on that?
Well, he actually articulated it perfect. We're all watching you, Ronnie. We will not only wear our "What Would Jesus Do" bracelets, but we're also going to wear our "What Will Ronnie Do" bracelets.
I already have that one right here.
You already have it right there. It's on our merch page, just so you know. I think we have to watch. Some of this is going to be a little bit of, there will be some generals that I think are going to help lead the way. And whether you're political, this isn't a political statement, but I do believe right now we have a president, whether you like him or not, is fighting for the church probably more than some others might have been. So don't hate me that I said that. I know it sounds political, but I think that there'll be some generals, and I think that there's always a Winston Churchill in every generation that will speak to the issue of, come on, we're going to make it through this. And I think as faith followers and faith leaders, we're going to have to, I understand the tightrope, but we're going to have to lead with that wisdom and lead with that faith and get as much information as we can. Obviously, like you said, stay focused, but lead with wisdom. I love Jesus is so brilliant as it is just wise as serpents, harmless as doves. And I'm trying to learn that balance of, doing that with the church, then with the things that they're saying that are just crazy. I mean, if you're not crazy, if it's not, I mean, the news cycle now is, hey, it fall. If the news cycle now, there's bees, I guess there's bees that are going to kill me. I mean, there is so many things that can, get us off track. We're going to have to make some faith life decisions, or we will all live in a bubble.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's the civil war. Can I call it that? In my head and in my heart, because what they're saying they're I think the 20th year, which the 24th would be the first Sunday that you could do church, but it's 30% occupancy. Check every person's temp on the way in. Everybody has to wear a mask. You're telling me I can't have church. Mm-hmm. So you're putting me in a position here fairly quickly, and I don't know how quickly, I'm not giving it a date, where you just got to make a decision. Guys, we're gonna believe God, and we're gonna plead the blood, and we're gonna go to having church. And I just wondered if you guys felt that tension or not. If that was, and Adam, hearing some of you guys' decisions, I think it's important for our people to understand, man, these teeter-totters of emotion and information that shifts and changes daily, boy, it's a lot to try to figure out, how do we serve our people? How do we minister to those people? How do we even know they have needs?
Yeah.
Because we're so isolated. I just think it's important that our people understand, man, we're living those realities every day. I don't think I've slept for 8 weeks. It's like middle of the night. Oh my God, who needs me that I don't know about? What's happening it's just the decisions on a whim, and trying to be there for them as much as you can, and to lead them as strongly as you can, and say the things that are necessary to say. There's been a lot of tension there. Our team has just has felt it, and I just feel like, and again, I know of the 3 of us, I am the one who's prone to look for fights and to look for a battlefield to fight on. I get that. And I know the 2 of you look at me and you're like, yeah, Ronnie's looking for something else to fight over. And I, you're right. That is part of my personality. And I get that. But I just have felt like that there's going to be a moment here. And we've talked about this a lot in the last month. There's a moment here where the battlefield's going to be real, and you're going to have to be willing, if you take that step, to stand in the crosshairs a little bit and say, you know what, we're going to believe God. We're going to believe God, and we're going to believe not only that he's going to cover it, but he's going to multiply it, bless it, and that stupid supernatural things are coming out of it. And so it's good to hear you say that. Let's do one more, and then we'll get off of here. I know I've kept you guys a long time today. Let's talk about that. Before we came on, we talked about the new normals. Give me some specifics, Adam, that you're looking at planning for in terms of the way that we minister to people. Obviously, this online thing is not going away, and I agree with you, Israel. All of that stuff's going to have to keep going because of the people who are lagging behind a little bit, not feeling comfortable getting out and being in a crowd and whatnot. But just talk about some of the new normals that you feel like God, not that the situation has pushed us into, but that God is pulling us into as the church, that you're excited about.
Yeah, I like the whole thought we had that we talked about earlier, our place of focus. I believe there's going to be an intensity spiritually within our churches that has to be there. What you pay attention to, you give authority to. And this whole season, and I'm not going to go on a political rant either because I have my thoughts, but I'm going to be gentle as a dove, Israel. But yeah, there's the dove right there. But I believe the attention has to go back to what's God saying. What's God said about all this? He's not surprised that this happened. He knew the inner workings of the White House and governments and countries and all these things and all these different conspiracy theories. He knew all this was going to happen. But at the end of the day, I don't put my hope and faith on the laws of men and the voices of people. I put my hope and my faith on what Jesus said and what Jesus has declared over our churches. And he called his church his bride. And if the church is his bride, he's going to take care of us. He's going to put all this stuff that's out of order back into order. It's going to look a little different naturally, but I believe there could be a spiritual awakening that comes out of all of this. When you look in the scripture, there was all sorts of moments of quarantine, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But who was in the fire with them in the quarantine? It was Jesus right there with them, right? You look at the ultimate quarantine, Jesus in the tomb. But God was up to something in that small amount of time. And we'll look back at this. Right now, it feels like it's been so long and it's been so excruciating. But I believe when we come back, it's going to be like, I'm going to go old school for a minute, Rocky Balboa, when he stood up to that Russian toe-to-toe and he said, hey, I ain't going down no more. We're going to push forward. This is going to be a victory moment. And I believe the church is going to rise. And I believe what people have been feeling in this season is that they've learned that church as much as I love praise and worship and great preaching, which if both of you would quit preaching, it would make me look better, by the way. But it's been about fellowship. It's been about the connection that we need our family, our church family. We need to be connected. And so I'm a faith guy. I'm like you. I'm ready to run through a troop, leap over a wall, and see God do some miracles in this season.
I'm 100% in agreement. I almost feel like coming out of this, there is and I know you guys are going to laugh at me secretly behind. Here it goes. Fire, brimstone, revelations, where it's at. I do believe there's a fast forwarding, like God's ratcheting up. And my feeling, and one of the things we've been talking about a lot, is coming out of this, one of the new areas and new normals is a real intentionality on true disciple making, which is preparing people for a partnership with God's plan of redemption globally. And I feel like that portion, and you guys know, you have a healing meeting packed. You want to teach about money, God's going to give you a blessing packed. You start talking about what it means to be a true Christ follower, which is your involvement in kingdom activity.
Right.
Crickets. And so for us, and we've really been talking about, okay, post coming out of this, one of our new normals is, how do we intensely and intentionally prepare people true discipleship for that partnership with God's purpose in their life?
So good. Yeah, I agree with you. That's we have to get out of here better, right? We're not going to waste a crisis. We're going to get through this better. And I think the word that you said, intentionality, behind it is, our dashboards as senior pastors should be changing. And I think we could get away with some bad dashboards in the past. And the oil light has been on and we haven't been noticing it. And what this has helped us realize is, wow, that oil light is actually very important. And so I think that there's some dashboards spiritually that we have. Ronnie, we have done maybe attendance. We have done maybe finances. We have done baptisms, all of those. So great. None of those are bad. But then the discipleship moments, I don't think we've been able to precisely list some of these new dashboards. And I think this is the moment where we're starting to learn, what does the word engagement mean? Are people engaging into their relationship with Christ, being discipled? And so I agree, we can come out of this better if we can figure out some of those nuances and dashboards spiritually, because we're concerned for them. I think it's washed away what's really not important. There's some things we're not doing, and the church is doing good without it.
And that's one of the things that has hit me so hard. It's revealed the glaring gaps in how we're doing it, in what it is we're doing, and the gaps it's kind of left in people's lives in terms of their preparation to truly be a part of the kingdom of God, not a part of the church, not attending church, but filling in the gaps of truly preparing people as disciples so that they're involved in, God's expected end. I know the plans I have for you. Well, how do I get involved in that plan? Because I understand if I'm involved in the plan, then I accomplish the purpose and I receive the promise. All of that comes together, but I got to get involved in the plan. And I think for me, and I'm going to let you guys go because I'm looking up here. We've almost been on the phone an hour. I miss you. Can you tell? But what I'm seeing is it's been a true revelation of there's some gaps in what we're doing, some gaps in what we're teaching and what we're asking of people. I think coming back from this, I think we've really got to focus in some new areas, and I'm excited about stepping into it, even though I felt challenged as a leader in this time and inadequate at some turns, trying to make decisions. But I love you both. I wish we could go eat lunch after this.
I'd love to eat lunch with you and watch The Last Dance, man. Look at that gear you got on.
You didn't see it, but I wore these for you too.
Oh man. Hey, so put it back so I can screenshot so I can get you on Preacher sneakers. Okay.
No,
I want to get you.
No. Good. Totally good.
Hey, I got to call Pastor Ronnie out just publicly for being a drug dealer. And it happened on Christmas. He sent me Jenny's ice cream. And I literally, that was my Christmas gift, was drugs, this crack called Jenny's ice cream. And I literally went back online 2 weeks ago, quarantined.
Ordered your own?
Ordered my own. And I've gained 5 pounds because I just keep eating this Jenny's ice cream. I just want you to know. I want America to know this right now.
COVID-19 stands for 19 pounds I have gained. Thank you, Ronnie.
You look great. You both look great. I'm jealous. I'm old. And I'm thankful for you both. I love you. We'll talk soon. I'm going to let you go. And just know I'm praying for you and appreciate your friendship. Love you dearly.
Love you too.
Take care, guys.